Broadcast, stand by for broadcast.
You're listening to InsideAIR, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hi, I'm Flight Lieutenant Chris Solly. Welcome to the latest RAF InsideAIR podcast. In this episode, we talk Astra. What is it? Why are we doing it? And is it worth it?
They're living in poor accommodation. So how is Astra looking after RAF personnel?
A lot of the people that worked for me had come from different jobs where they had been Astra'd.
So my sprint aims to help service personnel have a dog at home.
As usual, we'll also reheat a few stories which might have slipped under your radar. But first, see if you can identify what this noise is. Find out if you're right at the end of this episode. Astra. Astra Sprints. Astra Challenges. Astra Ambassadors. It's enough to get you reaching for the AstraZeneca painkillers. But what is it really all about? Flight Lieutenant Amy Casey reached for the stars to find out more.
If you're anything like me, you've heard the term Astra bandied about quite a lot over the last couple of years. I've heard this both negatively and positively spoken about, and as I was asked to host the Astra Awards 2022 this year, I wanted to find out more. What is Astra? If the RAF is spending money on technology, what technology is it going to? How is it helping personnel right now? And is it all worth it? The campaign definition on the RAF webpage reads a little bit like this. In order to protect the UK and our allies into the future, we're going to need some changes. It will require, quote, a shake-up of the way we do HR, our bases, equipment and training, end quote. So with that in mind, I started by asking Air Vice Marshal Simon Edwards his definition of Astra.
Well, every organisation is on a journey from where it is today to where it's going. The Royal Air Force vision is to be the most operationally successful, agile and importantly innovative Air Force in the world that's always there for our nation. And Astra is the name we've given to the journey that we're on. And innovation is key to that.
How has it been received amongst personnel?
Every time I go out into the organisation, I find a real excitement about Astra. I go to a lot of our frontline bases. And when I speak to people involved in it, people who know about it, people who are engaged with it, there's a real buzz of excitement and there's a lot going on. Part of what I go out there to talk about is to get people more aware, more interested. And of course, that's what's so important today, talking to you.
So for people listening to this for the first time, they don't really know that much about Astra. Can you give us some examples of the innovation and maybe some that you've seen that you think personally are incredibly good?
Well, first of all, if you want to know more about Astra, it's really easy to find out. Just search for Astra or This is Astra on ModNet or DefNet and loads of stuff comes up. There's a great team site and plenty of ways you can access it. Or on your station, ask who your Astra ambassadors are, find out and talk to them. When I go out to the stations, though, there's so much to see. And what we find is different stations are almost centres of excellence too. So, for example, if you go to RAF Leeming, you'll see an awful lot going on with sustainability. And everywhere you look, there's an Astra thread going on. It's very exciting. And if you go to Bryce Norton, there's an awful lot going on with virtual reality. There's a fabulous sprint that's been brought to life by relatively junior aviators who've learned about coding, who've learned about virtual reality, and have introduced a training system for evasion and escape and evasion training, which is really, really impressive. And there's loads more. There's people who've come up with really clever ideas about how to repair aircraft parts, how to scan our bodies so we can get fitted for equipment more quickly. And there's people who have done trials with sustainable aviation fuel and all kinds of things. It's almost limitless. And of course, there is no limit to something that you might want to, if you've got an idea, then talk to us and we'll help you bring it to life.
So one of the things that I want to touch on with you, I'm just back from my IOD 1 at Shrivenham, and I was with around 45 junior officers. And within that space, talking about the Astra brief, a lot of people were struggling with funding that's being given to innovation when themselves and their troops, they're living in poor accommodation, they're working in buildings that aren't great. So how is Astra looking after RAF personnel now?
Astra is the name of the totality of our journey from the Air Force, where we are today, to where we need to be. So that could be bringing a new aircraft into service, or it could be getting after the challenges you've just described. We know that, for example, infrastructure on a station needs attention. We need to get after that, and we are getting after that. There's investment in that everywhere you look. We're not where we want to be. That's the whole point of being on the Astra journey. And then there is some money, about £3 million a year, to fund these sprints that you hear about. So we bring those to life too. It's about trying to get the right balance so that we take every step we need on the journey that we're on.
So I really like the concept that it is across all ranks as well. We've seen from AS1 through to wing commanders and group captains getting involved with this. Are you just signing up for more work? Let me ask you that first of all.
So in Astra, we ask people to bring their ideas. And when they brought them, we then work with them to help bring them along. So yes, of course, if you come to us with your idea, we need your energy, we need your input, we need your leadership, we need your innovation. But we won't just make you busier. First of all, we'll make sure it's fun and we get something out of it. And we work with you to make sure that your idea comes to life, whether it's a funding, a business case, an industry partner, whatever you need. That's what the Astra Core team are all about. To put that wrapper around you, give you the help that you need. It's not just about making you busier.
As I thumb my way through the pages of projects known as sprints in the Astra campaign, I was quite impressed. From the latest advancement in technology through to sustainability, breastfeeding rooms, smart lockers, and innovative training programs, it seemed like there was a huge variety of technology set out to help RAF personnel, not just in the future, but also now.
We're really proud of all of the sprints that have been brought to life. And actually, I'd like to see even more of them that we're running with at the moment really got across there's something called an innovation valley of death. It's a well-known phenomenon in any innovator's challenge. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that we really are working with sprints, with the innovators, with the aviators that we've got, get as many of these fantastic ideas across that and into service. There's some fabulous success stories out there, but there aren't enough. And we know that, and we're working really hard to get more across.
So I arrived at the RAF Museum in Hendon for the Astra 2022 Awards. The core team were there. I caught up with one of the team leads on Astra, Warrant Officer Carolyn Cooper.
So I'm incredibly excited about this evening. It's an ideal opportunity for us to bring our Astra ambassadors, everybody who's been involved in the Astra journey, and a great opportunity for us to showcase their work and celebrate everything that they've done over the last year, working so hard to bring their sprints into the mainstream of the Air Force.
Some of the serving personnel involved with putting forward a successful Astra sprint were also on hand to show off their technology. First up, I headed over to where the innovative training concepts were being rolled out.
So my name is Corporal Nigel Lowe. I was a survival equipment technician in the RAF and then was seconded into the Technology Innovation Centre at Bryce Norton.
Tell me, what is your sprint about? What is this technology?
Okay, so originally it started off with a virtual reality training package called Virtual Survivor, and ever since then it's evolved off the back end of that and the success of people getting it recognised. We set up the TIC, and then that's gone on to create more projects through different areas in the Air Force. So we're actually trying to revolutionise the way that we train by using digital technology. So SEER is survive, evade, resist and extract, and it's the aircrew training when they go down on the ground. So what we've created is a virtual environment where there's a crashed aircraft and they can go and perform all their tactical skills and all their training within an environment that puts them under pressure. We've got gunshots going off. There's an area of ground that they've got to sort of evade through and follow compass bearings, and also stuff that messages that are sent to their radios as well. So we've tried to program real equipment into the virtual space so they can do as much as they want whenever they want.
Was there a gap in the training that needed a model like this? What was the thought process behind it?
So the main thought process is, as survival equipment techs, we maintain the PRC 112 Golf, which is what they use, and it was just trying to come up with something different. Originally it was just an idea that was on paper, and that evolved after 12 months, went into a 2D environment and then scaled up to a 3D, till we got to the stage where we went to the actual training authority and approached them with it, and they really loved it and want to progress it further now.
Using kit in that way for training, I can imagine it gets damaged all the time, so you've got to think about things like that. Did that come into the play?
Not originally, but as we've gone further on now with newer projects that are coming along, we're starting to realise how big a savings we can actually save because of how quick we can turn these projects around and make digital interfaces for people to train on as much as they want without breaking the physical kit itself. And they can keep using it. There's no extra cost involved because we're all in service, so we can keep modifying it as much as we can and just keep pushing out as much as what people want.
How has it been received by personnel and people that have trained with this kit?
There's a mixture, there always is. Not everybody's going to like it, and we accept that, but there's a lot more people that can see a benefit of it, and it'll take a bit of time for people to get used to it because it's kind of a newish area we're going into. So yeah, hopefully it's a success.
So this journey that you've been on within Astra, it's been a long and quite arduous journey. You've come up against different barriers, but you've managed to break through, and here you are tonight with this functioning kit. I mean, you must be feeling pretty proud of yourself tonight.
Yeah, massively. Myself and Martin Rakes and James Hancock, so there's only 3 of us in the team. We're really pushing boundaries, but we're definitely putting the work in.
I'm Simon Mitchell, and I'm at the RAF Regiment Training Wing at RAF Honington.
The Sprint Ready Gunner 1. So tell me about this piece of kit. It looks impressive.
Ready Gunner 1 is looking into how we can utilise simulation, a part of dismounted close combat training. So we use simulation in aircraft simulation, flying, train our pilots up, but we also need a way we can train our troops on the ground. So the RAF Regiment, the RAS Force Protection, when the aircraft's on the ground. So with this simulator, we're allowed to go into different environments that's very hard to replicate on the training areas we have around the UK. And with the nature of the training areas, they're very busy. So sometimes we do get restrictions on time and weather and things like nowadays with the heat and stuff like that. We have to put all that in consideration. So training on training area becomes very expensive. With use of a tool like SAFTAC with part of Ready Gunner 1, this allows us to train in these multiple scenarios as much as we want, and over and over again as well. So it minimises the cost, and it allows us to, when we go on the training area, to be more prepared and get more value for money when we're actually in the training area.
I mean, I'm looking at the graphics. It's World of Warcraft kind of set. I mean, it's really impressive. When you're training your guys, this sort of training, of course, it's important to do this to familiarise themselves with what they might do, situations they might find themselves in. But I imagine that it's a balance between doing the live training as well as the virtual training. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the graphics you see on here now and the modelling of the weapon system, for example, we've spent a lot of time, over a year's worth of development with the company to get everything 100%, because what we don't want to do is have a different style of training of a weapon system in a simulation to what is in real life. So every action on the weapon is as 100% it would be in reality. So all we need to teach our individuals when they're coming onto it is how to press what button at what time, but everything else they do in life on the actual system is 100% true to what they need to do.
How has it been received by personnel, especially when we're talking about a gunner that's been around for a while and this new piece of kit they've found themselves with? Are they warming to the idea? Has it been well received?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been doing this now with the help of Astra for over a year. So we're a year into the trial, and understanding over it's just grown immensely. Obviously, when it first came in, there was a lot of doubters in its technology, but as soon as they were shown its capabilities and what it could do, they changed their minds. We've been currently using it and trialling it on our Phase 2 students that are on holding, so they're currently not on training, either due to injuries or failures of parts of the course. And what we've been doing with it is bringing them up to speed, ready for when they go back onto course. And actually next week we're trialling it onto mainstream training for the first time, where a whole training flight will be going through the system.
I imagine that's a huge boost for morale for someone that's catching up, that's holding, that just wants to get out there and do what they signed up to do. This must be really good for them to be able to still be part of the squadron mentally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had the comments from the individuals that are holding. They came through us for a week. It took them for a week's worth of simulation training. And after that, their confidence and their understanding of what they needed to do for the rest of the course was increased, which then resulted in them passing the next time when they went onto mainstream. And yeah, seeing that as well for myself, I'm like very proud that it's actually working and doing what we wanted it to do.
So is Ready Gunner 1 making RAF regiment personnel better?
it's definitely making them more confident. And from early analysis of what the data we're capturing, it does see an improvement with their skills and their TTPs as they're moving on. Hopefully, by the end of this trial on mainstream training, which we're doing next week, we'll have even more understanding and more evidence to back up any future development that we're going to go down.
Well, the very best of luck. It's an incredibly creative sprint. I don't know if you're going to get your kit back from the group captain. He seems to be very involved in what's going on. Yeah. How did he do, just by the way? How did the group captain do?
He did all right, yeah, he did okay.
Just saying that because he can hear you, aren't you?
I will double check the feet after and make sure he did all the drills correctly.
Well, have a good evening and thank you.
Thank you.
There were also some really impressive sprints that involved future technologies that are going to help us do our jobs better.
So Chief Tech Mike Mathias, part of 71 Squadron, specifically the additive manufacture cell dealing with 3D printing.
So tell me a little bit about this technology.
Well, it's sort of cutting edge technology really. Every industry now has 3D printing involved in it. So the Air Force have been kind enough to invest some money so that we can get into the game ourselves. From an aircraft repair point of view, it's gold dust, really. It really is.
How has it benefited the RAF?
Well, at the moment, we're still very much in a project phase, but the benefit is future aircraft are going to have 3D printed parts. So as a repair squadron, we're already positioning ourselves to be able to support future aircraft, and equally obsolescence can be a thing of the past with 3D printing. So it's a future capability as well as right here and right now.
Would the printer come with you? How does that work?
So the printers are quite large, and then you've got the certification for aircraft parts. So the printers are pretty much going to be stationary from an air point of view, not necessarily for an army or a navy point of view, but air is going to be stationary. But what it does allow us to do is affect the repair quicker because the processes are quicker, they're more accurate, so we can get those parts to the aircraft, be it manufacturing tooling, manufacturing parts, manufacturing jigs, whatever it is, quicker to get the aircraft back in the air.
I imagine this is a huge saving because these parts are not cheap.
Absolutely. I mean, the process is not cheap, but the fact is that normal conventional manufacture is still a great tool, but you need tooling. If I've got a 3D printer, that's all I need and I can print it. So it speeds things up dramatically.
71 Inspection and Repair Squadron. How are the guys feeling about this piece of kit being given to you so you can get on with the work?
I think they're a little bit envious that I managed to get into the position that I have, if I'm brutally honest. But it's good because that sparks interest. There's a lot of people who want to follow in our footsteps, on the squadron. They want to come in and do what we're doing because they see the benefits, they see that it's the future, which is great all round.
Okay, well look, the very best of luck with all of the hard work that you're doing here. With your journey, your personal journey within Astra, has all the hard work been worth it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Flight Sergeant Andy Fleming. I am part of the P8 Camo and I undertake the military airworthiness reviews on P8 at the moment.
Okay, so you're here at the Astra Awards this evening with your sprint, so tell me about this concept.
The concept is basically an autonomous inspection drone. So the drone is capable of surveying the entire external surface of a P8 in around about an hour. It will identify detailed damage down to a millimetre squared, which is incredibly fast and incredibly accurate. It removes all subjectivity out of the surveying process and gives us a repeatable survey every time we deploy the drone.
This is quite a big drone and it will go up and around the aircraft. In the hangar, is this outside? How does it work?
Yeah, so at the moment this is internal to be used inside a hangar. That's to meet the regulation is out there at the moment. It has to be inside a hangar. So this is to be used inside the P8 hangar RAF Astra. So it's also got capability to do other platforms, smaller platforms such as Typhoon, which lives at RAF Astra, and then hopefully in the future E7 when we get E7. But it has pan-platform capability as well, and effectively if you can get an aircraft in a hangar you can get it surveyed once it's been mapped.
I am not an authority on the subject, but I can only imagine that as a person trying to do a survey on an aircraft, you're up and down ladders, you're moving around, you're underneath, and I can imagine it must be very difficult to be 100% accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I do a survey, to do a detailed survey like this, it takes me and another individual approximately 5 hours each, so that's 12 man hours, and of course after a while you start to get tired and fatigued looking at the aircraft. This does does it in an hour.
Wow, okay. The cost of this technology, v. what the RAF is saving.
Long term, it will be more of a airworthiness saving, and also the functional safety risk of not sending people up high, because one accident would cost a lot more than this actual piece of equipment costs for a year. But long term, this will save the Air Force quite a lot of money in manpower times, and more importantly, it's the accuracy and the increased airworthiness of the platform.
How did you come up with it? Have you always been into drones?
It was more of one of these folly thoughts when I was wandering around an aircraft doing a survey, when I can't get really high up on the empennage all the time and we have to do it from the ground. And I just happened to say to the civilian colleague I work next to, oh, wouldn't it be good if we get a drone to do this? So he's come from a civilian industry, and he said that EasyJet had already implemented something similar, or had trialled something similar, which then led me on a thread to go and have a look at it. We had a lightning strike on P8, which took a long time to detect everything on the aircraft, and then one thing led to another. We're just trying to bring it into the RAF, try and get on the sort of the forward edge of technology going forward.
So imagine your self-education working on this sprint has been amazing.
It's been a voyage, yes. Well, that's all we can say. A 12-month voyage of things. In my naivety, I thought we'd go into the den, we'd be approved, I'd get one, I'd be flying it before Christmas. And it hasn't quite operated like that. So, no, it's been a voyage of discovery. I've had to lean in quite heavily into the Astra team to get some help. I've had to lean quite heavily into the delivery team to get some help. And anybody who will assist just to try and push these things incrementally forward.
And my last question for you, was it worth it? All the hard work, was it worth it?
I'm going to say I hope so, yes. Once it's proved itself, I think once it's proved and out there, people will see the real benefit of what it can do, and hopefully we'll see a whole fleet of them being operated within the Air Force.
Well, it looks amazingly cool, so well done for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to all of the winners of the evening. The full list of winners can be found online over on the RAF social media pages. But I did catch up with the winner of the Astra Ambassador Award 2022.
Corporal Joe Lightfoot, the lead ambassador at RAF Lossiemouth.
Joe, you were a very popular recipient of an award. You got a lot of cheers. So tell me a little bit about your work with Astra.
That was just the noisy people from Lossiemouth, but kind of overseeing the projects at Lossiemouth for Astra, and quite a few of the people here today were from Lossiemouth with their own projects. So kind of trying to tie them in between Lossiemouth and the core Astra team, just to try and make it as seamless as possible for them, and just to make sure they get the right support that they need.
Okay, so tell me about your sprints, because you're involved with a number of projects.
Yeah, that's right. I took over one myself, which was kind of how I first got involved in Astra, which was a fibre optic tool for Typhoon, just to try and make the engineer's life a little bit easier. And then the kind of ones that were mentioned were the Project E-Bike, which was Corporal Neil Richardson, to try and, instead of using big diesel vans for small transports around Lossie, is to get e-bikes, the cargo bikes that can transport any number of things really, but just to reduce carbon emissions. Project Foster was the kind of idea for service personnel if they're going away kind of short touring, or any kind of courses that they need support for looking after their pets. There's Project A Survey with Flight Sergeant Andy Fleming, which is looking at drone surveys for aircraft. So just trying to tie them all in with the support that they need to get the projects running.
That's just a couple of the sprints that you're involved with. You're being very modest, but all of that hard work. And I remember in your citation that I read out this evening, they talked about your positivity, your continuous enthusiasm to keep contributing to Astra. So tell me, after hearing a citation like that and then picking up the Astra Ambassador of the Year, how are you feeling now?
I'm pretty proud, to be fair. Yeah, obviously it's nice to get recognition, but it's not just me. Obviously, there is a team. Corporal Chris Platts definitely needs a mention. He's been the deputy throughout. So I took over at the start of this year from Flight Lieutenant Kerry Desmond. So there is definitely a team of us, and I would like to point out that it definitely isn't just me. So it does definitely go out to them as well. But it has been a lot of hard work, and it's trying to get the message out there to other people of what can be achieved, and that there's funds out there for these projects. But it's definitely nice recognition for it has been a lot of hard work. But yeah.
And has all the hard work been worth it?
Yeah, got an award at the end. Yeah, it's definitely. But it's good to see the projects come to fruition and know that they'll make an impact. So yeah, definitely.
Right, well, Joe, look, I'll let you get back in and enjoy your evening, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
and the very popular People's Choice Award. Now, this was chosen by the whole force from a short list of individuals and projects nominated across all categories. This saw engagement of over 1,600 votes cast. There was just one vote between second and third places. And the winner was Corporal Lucy Ann Reid for Project Foster.
I feel absolutely shocked and amazed that the RAF and those that voted actually thought about what I was doing and figured it is something worthwhile and voted for it.
Well, there was a huge amount of votes that came in. It was unprecedented, and you got 17% of that vote. So it's obviously people like your concept. So tell me about your sprint.
So my sprint aims to help service personnel have a dog at home and not worry that if they're going away short notice that they can find someone to help out, because the cost of looking after your dog is quite considerable, but the mental well-being that a dog has at home is even more considerable. And having my dog at home really proved that to me, and being challenged by my work of where I needed to go, and I wanted to do my duty, wanted to go away and wanted to do my job, but I also wanted to keep my dog as well, and I figured if I'm in the same position then others will be too, so I figured let's try and sort that out.
It's a huge cost, isn't it? And if you're off on ops, sometimes you're barely breaking even if your dog's kennelled. So how does the concept work?
So essentially we are collaborating with a civilian company. They already had a customer base of people that wanted to look after dogs at no cost to the dog owner. So it's a pure love for the dog, and that's what I wanted to present to the RAF and to service personnel and what they can get involved with as well. So we incorporate service families, people affiliated with the services into Project Foster, so they too can look after service personnel's dogs.
So while they're away, safe in the knowledge that their woofer is at home, being loved and being looked after, must be an incredible feeling for personnel as well.
Absolutely, and so far what I'm seeing from my service borrowers, I like to call them, they're engaging with the dog owner by sending pictures, pup dates, and what they're doing, and on their walks, if at home, bad or good, if they're misbehaving. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's like oops, but that's the pride of dog ownership. It just changes from day to day.
And we wouldn't be without them, would we, our furry friends? So many congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Well, with people starting to exit the RAF Museum after a very successful evening at the Astra 2022 Awards, it was time to get the final word from the top brass.
I'm Air Marshal Harv Smith, and I'm Deputy Commander Operations.
Sir, we're here in an incredible setting, the RAF Astra 2022. Would you say this has been a success?
Huge success. That's probably an understatement. It's been a brilliant evening. Tonight is it's a marker, isn't it? Tonight is acknowledging the journey that all of the different folk that are here this evening have been on. And it's that journey that's amazing. So it's just been brilliant to be exposed to what our good people do. And the vast majority of them have a good idea, and what Astra is allowing them to do is have the wherewithal and the support to get after delivering that good idea. Many of them don't even need much money to start. It's just about being given the permission to do it. And that's what Astra is doing. It's giving people the permission to go and have a go at things, be different, challenge the norm, and deliver better things for the service. And we saw some brilliant examples of that tonight. It's just been brilliant from start to finish.
The innovation that's been represented here tonight right across the board range from biofuel to welfare, like our People's Choice Awards with Foster. Incredible opportunities for the Royal Air Force to look after our people now and into the future. Is that what you hope people look at Astra and think?
Absolutely. So it's about the culture. In many ways, it's less about the projects that get delivered. Of course, they're all delivering goodness, and that's superb. But it's about the culture that this has inculcated, particularly on the stations. And there's a vibe around it that it just drives itself. It's got its own fuel, this, Astra fuel. And it's just superb to witness that. So for me, it's as much about the culture. It's seeing the look on our people's faces when they realise they had a good idea and actually they were able to pull it through and make it something tangible. Because back in my day when I was a youngster, if that can be believed, good ideas were kind of frowned upon. You didn't break the mould, you followed the norm, and that's how you got on. And that was okay then, you know, at the back end of the Cold War, and we were a bigger service and there was maybe more money, and you just followed the process and you followed the norm, and that's how you did well. We can't do that as an Air Force anymore. If we don't innovate and change, we're not going to survive. We're not going to survive as a service in competing in just for funding in the MOD, and we're not going to win when it comes to what ultimately we may have to do to fight a potential adversary. And it's the organisation that's more innovative, has more information, is able to be more agile, that will win in today's fight. So for me, through the lens of Deputy Commander Operations, that's why this is really important.
We've seen some of these innovations roll out not just within the Royal Air Force, but across defence. How does that stand with our brothers and sisters in the Army and the Navy? Like, are we ahead in innovation in that respect?
I'd love to say yes. So yeah, go on. I'll say yes, of course we are ahead. But I'm sure if my Navy and Army colleagues were here, they would challenge that. So I see innovation across the whole of defence. My previous job prior to starting here, I worked in MOD in head office, and I worked in the Space Directorate as almost a tech startup. We were a startup, you know. In the first few weeks of arriving, there was just me and a couple of other folk, and it was the Good Ideas Club. And we did some great things with that small team, delivered an awful lot of goodness. And that wasn't necessarily because of Astra. A lot of the people that worked for me had come from different jobs where they had been Astra'd. So they had that in their mind, they had that in their culture, and they were happy to challenge and come up with good ideas, and more importantly have the expectation that they would be allowed to run with them. And I was very happy to let that happen. But in all honesty, I saw the Navy and the Army do it too, and we shouldn't ever be naive enough to think that as a service we're going to have all the good ideas. I am more than happy to steal good ideas from the Army and the Navy and claim them for RAF Astra innovation. I'm very happy to do that because frankly we all benefit from it. And we should think like that too. You know, we're doing stuff here that is easily transferable to Army or Navy or the civil service or frankly to civilian life. And we shouldn't be afraid about promoting that and offering it up for collaboration, because ultimately it's only going to show to how awesome our people are.
So the future of the RAF is Astra, but what is the future of Astra?
I think the future of Astra is bright. I think we continue to deepen the cultural journey. What is changing is, you know, Astra arrived 2-3 years ago. So many of us, it was a pick-up game. We were already in the service and we picked it up, and there were some that frankly were naysayers. There are some the complete opposite. They're so keen it was difficult to hold them back. And then in all honesty, people like me that were like, this is a good idea, convince me, show me the goodness in it. Because over my whole career we've had change programs and, you know, let's do things differently. In all honesty, this is the first time I think we're actually making tangible difference. But the big thing for me is it has stayed the course. A lot of these initiatives, they kind of die after 1 or 2 years because they didn't deliver anything tangible and the steam runs out of it. What we're finding is Astra now runs as a seam through the whole of the Air Force, and we've got youngsters joining, and this is what they join into. So it's not a pickup game for them. This is what we do. You're expected to do this part of the deal. And I think that's why this is going to stick. And I think as we see those youngsters come through and get 2-3 years into the service where this is now theirs, they own it, this is their thing, we'll just see it exponentially grow. And we'll see a knee in that curve. And where tonight we had some superb examples. You know, what will the Astra Awards dinner in 2032 look like? Who knows? Maybe we'll all be represented in avatar form and I can look much more handsome.
Well, sir, before I let you go and enjoy, hopefully, a well-earned glass of champagne, let me ask you this. The big push from the chain of command is net zero 2040. Can we do it?
So I think it's not about can we do it, it's about are we trying. That's what's key. And we've got to be very careful about conflating ambition and aspiration with targets, and then people getting all wound around the axle about, well, you didn't meet your target. The target is irrelevant. It's about setting the ambition, about setting the aspiration. Frankly, it's the right thing to do. And with that in mind, it's about giving our people the permission through initiatives like Astra to try to find and exploit and explore ideas that will allow us to get to an aspiration as you've described. We may fall a wee bit short, we might do better. We're not quite sure, but as long as we're aspiring to get there and we're setting the right conditions for our people to try their very best, and we're giving them the permissions and the tools and in some case the finance and resourcing it properly, then it's fundamentally the right thing to do.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you get back and enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.
This is Flight Lieutenant Amy Casey for Inside Air, the official RAF podcast.
I'm AS1 Victoria Andrews with Reheat for InsideAIR. Force protection specialists from the Royal Air Force have taken part in a major European air group force protection exercise in Belgium. The exercise, known as Exercise Volcanex, aimed to develop and test junior force protection specialists in a multinational headquarters. It also helped standardise processes across allies and improved interoperability to build confidence in multinational operations. The first of the 3 Wedgetail aircraft undergoing conversion have now received their distinctive multi-role electronically scanned array sensor. The Wedgetails will provide the UK with long-range air surveillance and control of an area of operations. In service, they'll be operated by 8th Squadron at RAF Lossiemouth. His Majesty the King has agreed that the Queen's Colour Squadron will redesignate to become the King's Colour Squadron. Made up of officers and gunners of the RAF Regiment, they're a dedicated ceremonial unit responsible for representing the RAF at both state and national ceremonial occasions, and providing guards of honour for the royal family, heads of state, dignitaries and other VIPs. And finally, a look to sport, where Air Force water skiers and wakeboarders have taken 5 of 6 individual events to come out on top at the Inter-Services competition at Bedford's Box Park. In 5-a-side football, the ladies' team from RAF Coningsby have claimed the service win following an unbeaten run in the group stages. On the men's side of the competition, 21 teams took part, representing 18 stations, with RAF Wittering coming out on top. And in rugby union finally, the under-23 inter-services competition gets underway, with the RAF in action against their army counterparts in the competition's first game. That's Reheat for InsideAIR.
I'm AS1 Simon Ross with this episode's Name That Noise. That was the sound of a sonobuoy being loaded inside a Poseidon. Boeing's Poseidon MRA-1 is a multi-role maritime patrol aircraft equipped with sensors and weapon systems for anti-submarine warfare, as well as surveillance and search and rescue missions. The Poseidon's comprehensive mission system features an array of cutting-edge technology. APY-10 radar with modes for high-resolution mapping, an acoustic sensor system, electro-optical IR turret, electronic support measures, and the passive and multi-static sonobuoys. This equipment delivers comprehensive search and tracking capability, while the aircraft's weapon systems include torpedoes for engaging subsurface targets. As the successor to the BAE Systems Nimrod, Poseidon has been operating from RAF Lossiemouth with 201 Squadron and 120 Squadron since 2020.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review, subscribe via your favourite podcast app, and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.